In today's video, I'm going to give you 10 questions that you should never ask, questions that you shouldn't ask. Not even with people you're very close to, because they can even make people stop liking you. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. I'm Juliana, co-founder of the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol, an etiquette specialist and teacher. In this video, I chose 10 questions. These are questions you shouldn't ask people you've just met or even people you already know, because they can be unpleasant questions that might even make people stop liking you. Surely you've been in a situation where someone asked you a question that made you really upset, that you didn't like. So I decided to gather these questions in this video so you can keep them on your radar and avoid asking them when you're talking to someone. After all, it's conversations that strengthen our relationships, whether they're personal relationships with friends and colleagues in our social circle, or even conversations in professional environments. In fact, these questions here in the professional environment, which I'm going to present to you, they even carry a wonderful weight. Because when it comes to relationships at work, they're much more superficial than the relationships you have with colleagues and friends in your social circle. In social settings, people tend to be a bit more tolerant. But in the professional environment, the image people build of you can be destroyed in seconds. So let's go over there so you can answer the questions. First question, how old are you? I think we learn this question when we're young. My mom always used to tell me, Juliana, never ask someone their age. There really are people who don't like to say how old they are. So teach your child not to ask how old people are, because kids and sometimes teenagers have this habit of asking how old people are. Teach them it's personal, and some people prefer not to share it. And if you just met someone or you've known them for a while and they haven't told you their age, have you realized that they don't want you to know how old they are? So avoid asking people how old they are. Some people have the habit of asking others their age, don't they? Second question, you meet a single person or someone who has just gone through a divorce or separation and you ask, are you going to get married? Or are you going to get married again? People are always asking about her life. It's as if her life had... Whenever you reach a new stage, for example, you're living your life, you graduated, then you already have to get married because you're already old enough to get married. And the same thing happens with other questions like, are you pregnant? Are you going to have a child? These questions are like that, all the questions that are very related to a person's privacy, to their individuality, things about their personal life you shouldn't ask. Especially if you meet a couple married for a long time and you keep asking them if they're going to have children, if they want to have children, or even if they can have children. Just the other day, I was talking about this topic on Instagram. By the way, if you don't follow me on Instagram, it's Etiquette e Protocolo. So I received a story from someone who was asked so many times why she didn't have children that she ended up having to tell the person that she was infertile. Imagine being questioned so much about something that hurts you so deeply to the point where you have to share it with a stranger. Because this person wasn't even someone close to you and you had to say that you are infertile. Sometimes it's something that's hurting you, something that doesn't make you happy, something that makes you feel bad every day. And then you have to expose that in front of people you're not even close to. So be very careful with the questions you ask. Another thing you shouldn't ask about is a person's weight. Especially nowadays, when we live in a world that pressures us so much to fit into certain standards, to want to be a certain weight, to want to have a certain body type, whether you want to gain weight or lose weight. Being asked about your weight is really something that feels like when someone asks your age, you know? So, if the person doesn't keep commenting on these things, be careful, you don't have to keep asking. This question I'm going to tell you about now, I see it a lot. It's people asking, how much did you pay for that? They ask. They look at your earring and then they ask, how much did you pay? Was it expensive? Was it cheap? People who always have the habit of bringing up money in conversations, that's totally unpleasant. Never ask how much someone paid for a certain object. a certain item, or even make a comment about it. Or add something like, oh, that's really expensive, or no, I'm sure that's expensive. That makes the person feel completely embarrassed. It's like you're really putting pressure on the person, like, I can't use that item because it's expensive, you know? So don't ask about the price of things, because sometimes the person doesn't want to mention how much it costs, and sometimes it was actually cheap. Sometimes you found something and it was extremely cheap and the person doesn't want to say it either. Let the person feel comfortable with the price of things and the amount of money they spend. Another question also related to money, which is really annoying to hear, is how much do you make? No, guys, please don't ask someone how much they make. Maybe they work a little, maybe they work a lot, but that's up to your interpretation. You don't need to be sure that someone makes a lot just because they work a lot, you know? So get that out of your head. Just stick to your own assumptions, because asking someone else how much they make is really very rude. Another rude question is, do you know who I am? Guys, are you going to ask someone, do you know who I am? No, that's not a question you should ask, please. When you're talking to someone or arguing about something with someone you want to show you're superior to, you don't need to do that, right? Using phrases like that and asking questions like that, that's terrible. Another question is when you ask someone, wow, is that cool? Don't ask if someone's product is real. You might look at their bag and wonder, but don't say, is it real? Just don't. If the person is wearing a designer item and you think it's fake, it's the same thing. Keep your conclusions to yourself. You don't need to ask to validate your internal questions, because honestly, you shouldn't even be questioning that. But if you're curious, it's important to keep that curiosity just to yourself. So never ask someone if something is jewelry, if it's real, or if it's original. Don't do that. Another question that's extremely inappropriate and delicate is asking, who did you vote for? In a world where we see that there are two very strong political sides, asking someone who they voted for can make them feel completely uncomfortable, and it might be that they know you voted for a different candidate. And having to tell you right there that she voted for the rival can make her reveal a side she doesn't want to. And you might end up creating animosity right there simply because of something so personal. Because the vote isn't secret, so there's no need to keep asking who someone voted for. And asking too much, wanting to know too much about people's private matters is really something very delicate. That's why knowing how to talk to people and avoiding bad habits during a conversation is important. They can make you a much more charismatic person, a much more pleasant person, a much more beloved person, right? And you'll be perceived differently in the environment you're in. And to help you always keep a positive conversation, I made a video with 15 bad habits during a conversation, mistakes that people make while talking. I'll leave it here on the side for you to watch right after this video. And if you want a part 2 about inappropriate questions, comment down below, leave a comment. Like this video and I'll return with part 2. I'll stop for now. Kisses, see you later.